What's up, good people? A friend of mine just sent me a message or asked me a question. I ain't gonna say just send me a message, but it was in the DMs from Instagram, and they said they asked me what has the chief of police and the mayor done for our city. I thought that was a good question, but my point on my local circuit and where I'm from, Washington D.C. Like if I share stuff on Instagram locally, like lately I've been talking about local stuff on my YouTube, which my YouTube is for a broader audience, as they say, right? But I've been talking about it because being as though that the changes that are occurring in DC are based on things that Trump is doing, I considered it national or international or even global news. Trump name involved with it. But my point is not to advocate for the mayor's office. They have people to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars all together to do that. And my intention is not to advocate for the police department. Once again, they can take care of that themselves as well. But I understand, and I don't know how many people really do understand it, but I understand that if they take the police department and they violate or trample home rule, which what gives DC the autonomy to operate like it's its own place, then it gives them the ability to take the whole city, period. If it take the city, it's almost like a war game. If the capital falls, the rest of the country falls. If he was able to implement that shit free of charge here, he would have tried it through some type of federal implementation of some pseudo wartime emergency, crime emergency, national safety emergency roost. Because if there was ever a time to take over DC, it's not now. If you're talking about crime, he got people out there throwing the homeless people tents and suitcases and shit in the garbage truck. They already have nothing. The little bit of things they've collected to be able to sleep outside in a winter, summer, spring, and fall, they throwing that shit in trash trucks. So it's almost like it's a war on the poor or the have-nots. Virginia in the building, what it do? Brooklyn, Florida, VA tapped in, what it do? What's up, bro, man, from out of Brooklyn? Shout out to Brooklyn. Let's get it. What's up? Salute. What's up? Him as I. My man Jawan. Hey, Eon, off topic for 1 second, then we can go back to this government shit because what's happening in the world today is very important. But have you heard the song by Barry White, Basketball Jones? I think so. Wow, what's special about that song, Jawan? OG Ant, what's up, Slim? Washington, D.C. What's happening? D.C. Mario's Minnesota Avenue. Salute. Shout out to Mario side. From my man Gio. D.C. Salute. Juwan. Yeah, got my man Juwan in here. E, what's up, Holmes? Commanders, what's up? Where you been? You ain't on Instagram no more? I need to ask you something, bro. Hope all is well up there in NYC. Hopefully they don't federalize y'all state. Hey, bro, to my New York man, he ain't gonna be. Listen, the only way they gonna be able to try this type of thing is in New York, because remember, DC is not a state. There's a lot of little laws that other people in the United States don't even understand about DC, okay? But the only way that they could try this shit is in New York City, because they don't want the whole state. They would try it in the city. It would have to be some type of catastrophic event like 9/11, bro. The Oklahoma City trade, the Oklahoma City joint. No, I'm not on that joint. Oh, you don't play with that joint at all no more, bro? Salute, love, shout out to Chicago. They ain't gonna do this shit in Chicago either now. If they was gonna try it in one of those cities, it may be Chicago because they would try it from based on the gunplay. But the mayor of Chicago, along with the governor of Illinois, have states' rights. DC is a different place. Like for people who think they understand government and civics, DC will show you that they make the rules up as they go. So much so that even Trump and them got caught in a double Dutch twist. They thought that running the play to commandeer on the with a hostile takeover of the police department in the District of Columbia, that the mayor and the attorney general, being as though that they understand the Constitution and Congress shall have this and that authority over it. That don't mean the president can implement that shit. But I'm glad they did it and tried it because it forced other people to go read it and understand it. And I was kind of glad to see that the mayor of the District of Columbia and the attorney general for the District of Columbia not only knew their rights, knew the rights of the District of Columbia, knew the history, and knew how the law was supposed to be implemented, didn't do no whole bunch of talking about it on the internet or on the news, just filed the paperwork, and within 24 hours, the judge read the fine print, and the fine print said that Trump could not take over the police department. According to the Home Rule Act of 1973, signed into law by President Nixon, a colleague of Trump's. But they both had felony convictions, right? But Gerald Ford, if I'm not mistaken, somebody on here older than me, Gerald Ford, if I'm not mistaken, pardoned Nixon, Tricky Nick, after the Watergate scandal. It's been scandal in the District of Columbia since the beginning of time, something like 1790. But I ain't gonna get too deep. I don't want y'all to think that I'm pretending to be a history professor. However, DC Attorney General and the mayor and everybody did their due diligence and went back through the DC Home Rule Act of 1973, once again signed into law by President Nixon, granting the residents of the District of Columbia an autonomy, a limited home rule to govern themselves. Remember, when the District of Columbia was founded, it was founded on land ceded by Maryland. Some experts say about 60% of the land was ceded by Maryland and 40% was ceded by Virginia. So much so, hold on, before I go into the so much so part, only because there were less than 300 residents in the area that they were going to call the District of Columbia. At that time, and I don't know if the law ever changed, you needed 50,000 people in a place for it to get statehood. If I'm not mistaken, you could double check it. I'm going off of memory. But residents of Maryland and Virginia that became residents of what this new experiment was that will be called the federal district, which is the District of Columbia. These people had been here for some time, definitely after the 13 colonies, but clearly after the revolution and the United States became a little experiment that they called a country at that time, no disrespect to the United States. But since they knew their rights as citizens and residents of states, they knew that they had a voting right in Congress, and all that stuff was important to them because the country had just gained what it was calling its independence and sovereignty. So a lot of people don't know this, a little known fact. Some type of way, Congress, the United States government, allowed residents of DC who had on the prior occasion before the land transfer, is what I'm calling it, that's not the official term, had voting rights in Congress so they could have some type of say so in the destiny of their country and their future. They allowed these citizens and residents to vote. I'm talking about in the early 1800s, to vote in Virginia and Maryland. You get it? So the very first residents of DC had voting rights in Congress by way of voting in Virginia and Maryland if they were prior residents. To add another little known fact that some people might not know, the reason why the southwest quadrant of the District of Columbia is smaller than others, even though the land is built the way it's built, is because land from southwest was ceded back to Virginia, if I may say that word that way. I ain't the expert, but that's what I'm trying to say. And they went back to Alexandria and parts of Fairfax or whatever they would consider that across the bridge. But that was parts of Southwest, so they was like, the hell with that, we not now. I don't know why the Maryland people didn't take advantage of that right, or I don't know if that was an option given to them. But the reason why Northeast and Northwest is so big is because those were parts of Maryland. For an example, a lot of people don't know. People think they know DC history. They went shopping down Georgetown in the 80s. They go down Georgetown now to go ego shopping. Georgetown was once a part of Montgomery County. It was so much a part of Montgomery County, they allowed it to have an autonomy. When I say autonomy, I'm not trying to use a big word to sound intelligent. That's the word that they always use when you look up the history. It had the right to govern itself inside the District of Columbia because it was already running a little civic or municipal system of its own while a part of Montgomery County, being so far away that damn near when they cut the land around it, it became a part of the District of Columbia. But inside the Federal District of Columbia, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not going to try to name these Jones correctly, it was 2 or 3 different entities functioning at more than one time. The city of Washington, the city of Georgetown, and maybe they might have been calling something else, the city of New Columbia. Don't quote me on that last part, but Georgetown and the city of Washington I remember that specifically. So I say all that to say that the District of Columbia is governed by the Constitution. They had to say so over it. Back in the day, it was such an anomaly. They didn't know what to do, but they knew that voting rights were an essential part of the cornerstone of American liberty and justice as they push it. And when the residents believed that they were being trampled, their rights were being trampled on, Virginia people went back to Virginia. Some people moved out of DC, and then as time went on, there were no rights to vote federally in DC. From the beginning of that time, way back in the 1800s, all the way up into something like 1965, DC residents couldn't even vote for the freaking president, bro. How many of y'all know that? That DC residents couldn't even vote for who the president was, let alone vote for abortion, vote for the Board of Education, vote for rights like whatever right bruh had got, the rights to read your right, the right to be appointed counsel. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going off memory right now, but I forgot the name. It'll come back to me. But an indigent man out of Florida received a bunch of time in court, got time in the state of Florida, wrote a motion and a petition to the United States Supreme Court about being indigent and not being afforded the right to have an attorney based on the Constitution. And then that law came out through a landmark case for his rights, have a right to attorney. Like when they read your rights, if you don't have an attorney, one will be afforded for you. Blase, blase. All that stuff came out of DC, but nevertheless, DC ain't even had to vote for a Board of Education or for the right to vote in the United States presidency, something like 65. Almost 10 years later, in 73, the Home Rule Act was passed, and residents of the District of Columbia were allowed a mayor that can govern certain things, and a city council to represent wards, and an ANC, an advisory neighborhood commissioner. All these things are new in the history of civics in the District of Columbia. A lot of us is talking, a lot of us is on the internet, is from DC. Many of us don't even care about anything that happened in the 80s, the 70s, or the 60s, bro. A lot of people don't know, and Trump might need to be reminded, when you think you can come into the District of Columbia with some heavy hand and put some shit down, we know you have the Army. We know you have the military. We know you have the National Guard. We know you have B-2 bombers. We know you'll blow this bitch up like the people from the Root program in Philadelphia, when the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania bombed an American city. I do remember that, right? So I know that they'll do all that, which is why I don't instigate or incite the youngers to stand up to the National Guard. I see a lot of these dudes with these platforms saying, oh, when the National Guard come in your hood, you don't do shit. Fuck, you trying to instigate a real riot? You trying to get some of these young niggas killed? Who the fuck is gonna go at the National Guard? There's some regular hood shit. We ain't talking about guerrilla warfare, bro. We ain't talking about Nat Turner or George Jackson free with a bunch of Fred Hamptons behind him. We talking about hood niggas. You gonna incite them niggas to go at the National Guard? You wouldn't go at the National Guard. I'm not gonna say no names because every time I get on this, people think I be clout chasing or I'm not. Y'all hear the niggas out there that's talking that shit. Your guns gonna collect dust. When the real ops come in the hood, you're not gonna do nothing. How about you encourage niggas to stay the fuck out the way and find a way to stay the fuck out the way? Sitting there talking that stupid shit. Which one of you tough niggas gonna go at the National Guard? And for people like Willie D and this other guy to say, you know, when the National Guard come in your hood, don't forget this the District of Columbia. We got Benny Lee Lawson here. Benny Lee Lawson came from the District of Columbia, Willie D. Google Benny Lee Lawson. They played with him in all type of ways. The feds, the people that you say niggas scared of, he went in a police station and he crushed 2 FBI agents and a homicide detective. He didn't make it out with his life. That's what you want to encourage people to do? Let's go to Ralph McClain. Ralph McClain from Northwest Washington, D.C. by the way, Washington, D.C. Ralph McClain got so fed up. What he started doing? Plucking them off from D.C. to Prince George's County. Ralph Willie D. Look him up. Another thing I want to say to Willie D while I'm on it, because I grew up based in the Ghetto Boys and I got a lot of respect for that culture and that music. But Willie D, I seen him sit on his platform and justify and sugarcoat and condone Bun B sitting on the stand at a nigga victim impact statement for getting sentenced for coming in his house and violating him. But Bun B shot this man. You can understand why Bun B is on the stand at a victim impact statement, Willie D, and he's sitting on this sending a nigga away to jail that he already shot. They already arrested. He didn't have to say a motherfucking thing. But you was cool with that. But I heard you sneak dissing when you was talking about the video where the park police and the DEA and them walked up on the young man in the District of Columbia who was sitting on his back porch smoking a cigarette, and they approached him and they said, "Hey, where's your ID?" And the young man said something to the effect of, "I live here, sir." And you said, and I hate when they be talking about yes, sir, no, sir, and you know, this and that, and the guns gonna collect dust. Willie D, you might be tough, you might can fight, you may even be rebellious. I got a lot of respect for Texas and Houston as well. But let me remind you, the state of Texas was the last fucking state in the country to free their slaves, bro. The state of Texas is the reason that we celebrate Juneteenth. So I don't want to hear no bunch of tough shit coming out of Texas. Y'all was the last slaves to be informed that y'all was free in Texas, Galveston, by the way. Juneteenth, I was born on that day. But to bring it back full circle, you talking about him saying yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. What about Bun B sitting on the stand talking about, oh my God, and I was just so afraid, and my wife, she was shook after, you know, and then blah, blah. What about I got a pocket full of stones? What about all that gangster shit? So Willie D, please, don't be pushing this shit about, you heard a DC nigga saying, yes, sir, no, sir. My man Benny Lee Lawson said yes, sir, no, sir, as he cleared the metal detectors in the police headquarters in 1994, November 22nd to be exact. And went in that motherfucker with a Mac 11 or MP5, who knows which one. Some say this, some say that. And aired 2 FBI agents and a homicide detective out, Willie D. Don't you forget about the urban street niggas from the District of Columbia, Willie D. When you sit there sneak this and talk about a nigga on his back porch smoking a cigarette that you don't even know if it's a street nigga. Said yes, sir, no, sir, and why do I live here? He know how to operate when the motherfucking ATF and the DEA and the park police and everybody is coming through the hood. So why you sitting over there? And I understand that you wanted to talk all, and I'm not talking like that. I can't stand when they say yes, sir, no, sir. Can you stand when Bun B was on the stand at that victim impact statement to get that young nigga 60 years after he shot the nigga in his house? Willie D? Somebody tell Willie D the light-skinned nigga from DC is responding to what he said about the yes, sir, no, sir. If you don't stop playing, bro, stop playing. Now, yeah, I understand that, you know, you from the Ghetto Boys and y'all made all the songs and, you know, y'all stood up, Mr. Officer, Crooked Officer. I want to put your ass in the coffin, sir, because you've been fucking niggas like myself for too long. It's time to grab that motherfucking line and get it on. Y'all rap that shit. Benny Lee did that shit. Ralph McClain did that shit. Donnie from Kentucky Course did that shit. Let me say that again. Donnie from Kentucky Course did that shit. Martell from 7th and 0 Northwest Washington, D.C. did that shit. The street niggas today on this, when where you from to do that shit, be coming from backgrounds of military and law enforcement. But stop playing, bro. Y'all had the DEA agent. I don't believe he was the FBI, but the DEA agent Shoemaker was chasing Jay Prince and Scarface all over Houston. You think Benny Lee would have went for that? Fuck wrong with you, bro? Watch him out when you talking about the District of Columbia, Willie D. You don't know nothing about this right here. And this dude, Anton Daniels, my man Harleen Flower, shout out to Harleen Flower. We put me on this content. I was checking him out. But he be making a lot of dick-eating comments now. The dude, Anton Daniels, said that Trump said something about Oakland and the mayor of Oakland is an Asian. According to my research, as of April 15, 2025, the mayor of Oakland is a black woman. Then Anton Daniels said all this other shit like he had some type of cognizant sense of the District of Columbia. Bro, if you ain't read the Homebrew Act of 1973, you just a YouTuber, bro. I understand that you may have a decorum or a demeanor, that you're a little bit more educated and you have a little bit more understanding of the world and social economics and stuff than other people. Fuck all that. I ain't got all that. Nigga, I went to jail in the 9th grade, but I know the DC Home Rule Act of 1973, and I know this shit that you talking to some bullshit. I ain't got to sit here and pretend that I went to Harvard and I've learned and I speak this way. Nigga, I speak the way I feel. If I'm in a room where I got to operate and I want to operate like that, that's how I operate. But that Willie D shit about him talking about a nigga saying yes, sir, and no, sir, when he was just dick eating, co-signing, sugarcoating that shit Bun B did, Willie D, bro, please keep DC the fuck out your mouth, bro. Please. Especially when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Especially when you contributed to some of that motherfucking music we was listening to in the 90s when we had this motherfucker turned up. We had DC the murder capital, nigga. When we was really living that crooked office and shit while you was rapping that shit. You was rapping that shit. While you was rapping that shit, we was behaving in a way where we had the National Guards on the corner in the 90s. Listening to the music that you was making, Willie D. Listening to the music that Bun B was making, Willie D. The same Bun B was on a stand in a motherfucking courtroom sending a nigga away, and you came back and defended Bun B saying he's a grandfather, he's a businessman. He the same nigga that influenced anybody in my age range from 45 to 50 in the 90s, they was really in the streets. And now he can shoot a nigga and go to court and cry on the stand at his victim impact statement, nigga. You niggas hypocrites. Let me read some of the comments, man. Give me 1 second. Let me read some of the comments because I seen my man said something that made sense. Give me 1 second, y'all. My question is, how did DC Civil War impact it? Oh, 1 second, y'all. 1 second. Okay, my man, I say, do you remember the song is dope? All right, that's why I stopped there. Give me 1 second, y'all. 1 second. The song is dope, but I wanted to see how well remember that song was because it was on Space Jam. I don't remember that song, Juwan. E, you doing a good job letting the people know what's popping. I'm from Uptown DC. I see change already. All the hustlers hiding. Laugh out loud. Okay. Good info. 1790. Damn. Yeah, something like that. 202 Wing Productions. What's up, yo? What's up, yo? Baltimore here. Shout out to BMO, Bodymore, Murderland. What it do? Civil War impacted DC heavy. That's true. My question is, how did DC become the biggest black city and why? Probably because it was a slave fugitive. So DC in 1862, Abraham Lincoln, which is why DC celebrates Emancipation Day, I believe April 15th, April something. Don't quote me on that because I'm going off the head. It's like I'm freestyling, but I know what I'm talking about. DC, the slaves of the District of Columbia, the enslaved people from the District of Columbia was freed in 1862. Most people teach history that this occurred in 1865. They teach this because most of the last people that was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation, but the people, the black enslaved population of the District of Columbia were not freed with the Emancipation Proclamation. That was for the rest of the country. Just like why I tell people to pay close attention to what Trump is doing now in the District of Columbia. If he can do something in the District of Columbia, he will try to do it in another way all over the country. And I'm not a Trump, I'm not for or against. I'm just a person that's here. I was born here. Nevertheless, the slaves of the District of Columbia was freed through the DC Emancipation, 1862, years before. So other slaves from other places that were fugitives ran away and hid in DC. That's why they passed the Fugitive Slave Act, where people could come, slave chasers, which was the Pinkerton and the FBI and the law enforcement and the U.S. Marshals. Those were slave catchers. So they came to DC looking for slaves, and a culture developed in the District of Columbia, not just by people that's supposed to be from DC, because remember, DC is land that comes from Maryland and Virginia. It was a place that was a hideaway for the freed black man, the fugitive black man, the one in between, the ones that was helping, and even some law enforcement. For an example, there was a place in DC that was a lawless place called Murder Bay. It was overseen by a U.S. general, if I'm not mistaken, with the last name Hooker. They say that this is why prostitutes are called hookers, because they had brothels in this place called Murder Bay. Some people say that this is what Southwest DC is now, where Metro Station became, Metro Center is, or somewhere down there by that location. You could Google this place called Murder Bay in the 1800s. Lawless, all type of killing, all type of lawlessness. There was no law in town. The only law that was there was the U.S. Army under General Hooker, if I'm not mistaken. Double check what I'm saying right now, because I'm just popping. But nevertheless, at that time, all type of gangsters, killers, gamblers from all over Kansas, St. Louis, New Orleans, deep Virginia, deep Carolina. Don't forget people like Bumpy Johnson, Frank Matthews. Those guys come from the South. Places like South Carolina, North Carolina, a bunch of gangsters, man, from District of Columbia came from the South. Alabama, North Carolina. Don't forget that back in slavery, when motherfucking slaves was too vicious, too much like DC prisoners in the feds, what did they do? They sent them to a place downtown on a national mall in big ass cages. You could see them. They would either transfer them to Alexandria, Virginia, or Baltimore by way of a specific company. The same company has roots in Virginia right now. Where would they send the slaves? From Baltimore to New Orleans. Why you think DC niggas and New Orleans niggas act so much alike? We probably cousins from slavery. Look up Murder Bay. So a mentality and a culture of rebellion and resistance has existed in the District of Columbia since its inception. That's why places like Boston, where the Boston Tea Party occurred, where they threw the middle finger to England, that's why places like Boston, they even have tough renegade white people there. Places that are built on resistance, such as the District of Columbia, and Trump gonna learn that. Muriel Bowser was running around smiling and shit for 2-3 days. That's the smile of, okay, he tried it. She went to Martha's Vineyard while Brian Schwab, the Attorney General for the District of Columbia, was putting together the lawsuit. They already knew the shit was wrong. I can understand and relate to it. For an example, I was a DC prisoner, although people in DC, even if they regular DC prisoners, they are still sentenced to the custody of the United States Attorney General. But the United States Parole Commission tried to implement new laws on DC prisoners. Myself and other people said, no, you can't do that. What did we do? We filed from what was in the paperwork from DC federal law to US Parole Commission law, and you attacked it. Muriel Bowser ain't get on TV and do, no disrespect to the Baltimore mayor who stated his claim saying, yo, Baltimore murders are down, is at a 50-year low. Shout out to Baltimore. You know, we don't need to be killing each other. She ain't had to do what the mayor from Chicago did by calling Trump, you know, a racist, and he's intimidated by black men of intellect and intelligence. That's his right to say that. And Trump that took so many shots at him, they could do that, but Muriel Bowser ain't do that. Muriel Bowser didn't have to do with the lady. I don't remember her name, from Oakland, the mayor of Oakland. Somebody could tell me in the comments. She didn't have to do what the mayor from Oakland did when she came on the thing and had to defend herself and her town. Muriel Bowser said, yes, we're going to work with our federal partners, and you know, we're going to do this and do that. Soon as they sent that motherfucking letter, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter with that condescending white supremacy Trump loyalists, let me do the Monica Lewinsky to you in the Oval Office when the camera off type tone that Pam Bondi said, effective immediately, Pamela Smith is no longer the police chief. Bitch, if you don't take that shit back to Tampa some motherfucking where, fuck out of here. If it wasn't for politics in the U.S. government, you from Tampa, you probably would have been a stripper, bro. Talk that shit. But anyway, see how I digress? Let me get back on my shit. So Muriel Bowser and them said, yeah, okay, he tried it. Brian Schwab went up in the federal court building, a place that Trump should know a whole lot about. He got 30-something felony convictions. You know what I mean? And on the felony conviction, no, I'm getting on track. So they go in there and they filed, they sued They sued to protect and defend what is called home rule. And some of my buddies saying, hey, why you care about the police or the mayor? I care about home rule, bro. I care about home rule for many reasons, but let me dumb it down for the gangsters and for the subculture. One reason I care about home rule is because home rule gives the district residents the ability to select council members and ANCs, right? And council members and ANCs understood the climate of the 90s and that they were sending children away for life sentences. It was the murder capital. It was the crack epidemic. Things were bad. But the people that grew up in that climate and realized that they were parts of the community that were washed away for things that were unfair, the feds already changed a lot of laws that they had that was creating mass incarceration. So DC, by way of city council, and shout out to everybody who had a part in that, DC, by way of their local city council, the autonomy vested in them through President Nixon and the Home Rule Act of 1973, said, we're going to create the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act because you got too many kids that fit the criteria with science. And the Supreme Court, this wasn't just some DC shit. The Supreme Court ruled, hold on. Excuse me. The Supreme Court ruled and agreed with science that the brain of the person under 24, 25 years old is not fully developed. It's similar to a muscle. You dig it? You can't put me in a ring with a 7-year-old and expect the 7-year-old to fully be strong enough to deal with me at 40-some years old. Psychologically, intellectually, mentally, and the muscle of the brain does not develop. It changes. Go Google this shit. You can look it up. It even changes in size and shape as people develop. Anyway, make a long story short, the Supreme Court agreed. You can't give juveniles life forever and don't come back and revisit their situation. So the city council for the District of Columbia created a series of laws to address over sentencing, childs with life sentences, and this and that. Trump goes to get, first he go to get Ed Martin, who the woman downtown spit on. They ain't like that video. I took it off my YouTube, but a woman spit on him for his despicable conduct. And then he go put Pam Bondi. Then he go get Pam Bondi to put Jenny Pirro in there. Anybody on here that watched them type of Jenny Jones type Judge Judy shit, Jenny Pirro, let me say the name correctly, because every time I say Pirro, I want to say Shapiro, but her name is Janine Pirro. She was a Fox analyst where she had a talk show. Every time she opened her mouth, it sounds like a commercial. She probably sold cars in her 20s. She gonna march her little leprechaun ass, 2 inches of makeup on her face, on a TV screen and say, I don't care about crime being down. If you're 14, 15, 16, 17, I'm going to do this and do that. Some of the crimes that they talking about charging 14-year-olds as adults, do y'all know that some of these crimes are unarmed? If some of y'all are not from Washington, D.C., and you just stop paying attention to what really goes on in Washington, D.C., because I swear to God, I did not know that. Some people thought Washington, D.C. was in Washington State. What did your public schools teach you, bro? But anyway, if you've been watching what was going on in D.C. and how this came to be, this is not about the Doge boy getting beat up. This is not about the Trump staffer getting carjacked and fatally shot. It's about control, bro. If he can trigger certain emergency controls, God, how we feel about the so-called. All right. If he can trigger some of these emergency things, because keep in mind, look, let me remind you, anybody that ain't keep up with the prison in El Salvador, CCOT, right? The terrorism confinement center in El Salvador, where Trump was sending the Venezuelan people and all the other people, they made all type of news for that, right? If you remember when they first started doing that, technically that was supposed to be unconstitutional is the word I want to use. But they tried it to see if they could get away with it. And I said 2-3 weeks before it happened, I said, this boy Gully, who I don't like, was on his platform saying, oh, niggas, this nigga sitting in Erie, Pennsylvania, talking this shit. Man, we don't have nothing to do with what's going on in Los Angeles. The Mexicans don't even like us. The black people stand down. First and foremost, what black people listen to that nigga? That goofy ass nigga. That nigga worship Ralph Lauren. Anyway, he was talking stand down and all this, and the Mexicans don't like us. I kept saying, bro, this ain't black and Mexican. This is rights being trampled. This is tyrannical. This is something that's gonna come to us next. What we dealing with in DC. Now you see why I don't get into black and white and Mexican. I get into right and wrong. So I said that weeks prior, the boy Kilmer Garcia, who is he's supposed to be here illegally, but he was living in Maryland. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if y'all kept up with that story. A federal judge over there, when he sent him out with that bullshit case that they docked up, released him and forbade ICE to lock him back up until this shit was done with in court, which is what I said. They got a thing in this country called due process. And I'm not no big patriot, no big advocate of law, but if you give me a manual with a car and it comes with a fob, right? And I don't know, all I know how to use is a key, but if you give me the manual, excuse me, if you give me the manual, what I got to do with the car, I can read it and I can guide myself. That's the only thing I use the law for, because for real, before I beg for change or going to do this and do that, like I would violate the law. That's how I went to jail. But all the Trump shit that he tries in the District of Columbia is something that's going to go somewhere else if you allow it. That's my only thing with the people that are saying, who cares about ICE? Now they have ICE. And another thing about ICE, for the people who want to make it black and Spanish, I'm from Northwest Washington, D.C. I'm from uptown. We have Hispanics uptown. Not only do we have Hispanics uptown, we have people from other places. It's a melting pot. Panama, Guyana, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, Ecuador. I'll stop there. I'm listing people who really went to school with me from these nationalities. Now, with the shit that he's trying, he knew that the fake crime out of control shit in DC was going to get rebutted or resisted by crime being down. But now that he's already played the card, who's uptown? Border Patrol, Homeland Security, ICE, Secret Service, U.S. Marshal, DEA, FBI, ATF. They made 100 and something arrests the first night. Multiple of those arrests were things that happened that regular DC police would have let you go for, release you from the station, but they turned their information over to ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So look at the play underneath the play, y'all. Muriel Bowser and rebuts it, retains control of the Metropolitan Police for the District of Columbia, allowed them to embed under the pretense that they thought that Pam Bondi was going to make Terry Cole, the head of the DEA, was going to make him the head of the DC police. And as of the day before yesterday, even put it down on paper and sent it out all over the world that he is now the emergency police commissioner. If you're from a place like New York or Chicago, you know what a commissioner is. That's the person that runs the shit. So to make him an emergency police commissioner is to take the job of Pamela A. Smith. And for people who don't know, Pamela A. Smith was the chief of the Metropolitan Police for the District of Columbia. She has 30 years about in law enforcement. If I'm not mistaken, she might have spent 2 decades in U.S. Park Police law enforcement. If I'm not mistaken, she was a Park Police chief when she came to be the chief of the DC police, bro. So she has more knowledge and experience in the operation of the U.S. Park Police, interaction between federal police and local police forces such as the Metropolitan Police. She has more knowledge of that than Pam Bondi or Donald Trump. Pam Bondi come from Tampa, Florida. She don't have no hell of an experience governing the whole DOJ. Trump just put her in that position because she got blonde hair and big lips as a white woman. Every woman he put in position this year, from Pam Bondi, well, excluding Janine Pirro, she looked like a leprechaun. But Kristi Noem, the one over Homeland Security, Pam Bondi, the one that came from Tampa, that would have been in a strip club, but she didn't go into politics, and whatever the other one is. But we're going to stop with just those two. Trump put them in position because they remind him of centerfolds from one of them white type of magazines like Playboy or Hustler. You dig what I'm saying? That's what Trump into. Technically, if you want my opinion, y'all keep asking for my opinion. That's my opinion, bro. I'm way too behind on the comments. In 1957, DC became the first black majority city due to a lot of opportunities. Okay, ex-military have no problem doing so. Peace, fam. DC native here, just saying what up. Also, I love the brothers and sisters from DC. To all my people here, let's all try to live more righteously so that the Most High will give us blessings. Okay, salute. West side of Chicago is a bigger black city than other places. DC extremely small. That's true, but DC make a lot of noise, bro. Some of the rights that we got all over the country started in DC. So even though DC has been very small, we made just as much noise as the big cities when it comes to black culture, black civil rights, the black nationalist movement, crime, gangsterism, all that other shit that affects black cities affects the District of Columbia. And aside from it being small, it makes the same news in the rankings with every other big city, from problems to benefits. $350 billion. What's that? I'm lost. Phone died 5 minutes ago. Back in the building now. What's up, bro? Please don't knock the brothers willing to fight back. Ain't nobody coming to say, y'all, this is the real talk. Who am I saying this? Who am I knocking this fighting back? I missed that. I ain't sure. All right. Last to be free, Juwan said, not turning them guerrilla warfare dudes wouldn't be able to stand a chance with the National Guards either. They got too many resources, too much manpower, and too much military assault rifles. Somebody say facts. All right, aren't they God in the monuments? It's just that a question. Nah, they in the streets too. They in the curry out. They coming in the trenches. They in the traps. They everywhere. When they come, they don't stay there all day though. They fighting back in Texas. Everybody got a strap. Well, okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but okay. The average citizen stands no chance with the National Guard. Listen, I was a 15, 16-year-old little nigga in the streets when the National Guard was here before, bro. They had M60s and searchlights on top of their Hummers on your corner and in your alley. Like some of y'all ain't never even heard an M60 go off. I mean, the sound of the weapon to make a motherfucking knees weak. FBA, just stay inside for 30 days. Don't let them bait us into this. Let them own their problems. Okay, Hassan said, Benny's story is real. RIP, he was down central with me. RIP to Benny Lee Lawson, leads up, feds down. People in the prisons across the U.S. always talk about how tough DC and Maryland dudes are. Well, I don't got to glorify that, but we possess a spirit of resistance here. That may translate into different shit in prison, but as you see from looking at the videos I've been posting on the interactions of the community with the law enforcement here, even the white people assaulting the police with Subway sandwiches. Shout out to him. Forgot his name, last name, none, but he lost his job and everything. He worked for the Department of Justice. It's a green light on blacks in DC. They trying to make the DC blacks in prison a bigger group. He green light the activity military from every country caught the fade. Man, Willie D been canceled years ago. Well, I kind of still respected them as the ghetto boys, but he keeps saying shit that he just nitpicking with me, not knowing it. I was raised to talk with respect. Yes, sir, no, sir, etc. Until, I mean, it's also a way to deal with people to disarm them. You could be game, and listen. I don't know how many of y'all ever watched my video or the video of the dude Richard McLean. He escaped from USP Pollock. Everybody, all the hood, we call it Pollock. The name of the place is Pollock, Louisiana, but we say Pollock. But anyway, he escaped from this penitentiary. Most people don't even know nobody that escaped from a federal penitentiary, a USP, right? When he escaped from prison, he was a little bit away from the prison. Hold on. For those who don't know, this dude is an escape artist. He escaped twice before this. This is the reason he was in federal prison, from escaping from some joint in North Dakota. He's a genius. He's a genius. He's a killer. And he's an escape artist. He's a white man. He's in ADX right now. While in U.S. Penitentiary, Pollock, he had a job that allowed him the opportunity to make mail bags. He learned that the mail bags were shipped out of the prison at this day and this time at this hour every day and transported by way of a skid with a forklift on some outside of the prison and then into a warehouse. It would be shrink wrapped with plastic so you could suffocate. So he made a straw of some sort that he could breathe out of, pushed it all the way to the top, took commissary snacks like Kool-Aid, Zoom Zooms, and Wham Whams, a couple bottles of water, and this how the Fed said. They say he mailed himself out of prison. After he was transported about a mile away, some to this warehouse, he cut out of the mail bags and the plastic and had a tank top, some gray prison shorts, and began jogging. Now he's a white man. He still had the bottle of water. He encountered the police to get to this part that I'm trying to make. A Louisiana police, another white man, an older white man. And while he was there explaining his lie, he gave the police, go look at it. I did a video. You can Google it. Richard McLean. You don't have to, you can look at my video. You can just Google this matter. While he was sitting there talking to the police, he gave the police at least 2 fake names. Now, and I do understand he was a white man and that helped him as well, but there was a white man they were looking for. However, my point is to get back to this Willie D shit and the shit that my man just said that he was taught to say yes, sir, no, sir. It's twisted. He said, I was raised with respect, to talk with respect. Yes, sir, no, sir, until. Richard McLean, convicted of murder, just escaped from the United States Penitentiary, was in the face of law enforcement for about 7 long minutes saying, yes, sir, no, sir, I wouldn't do that. No, sir. Is something wrong with him saying yes, sir? I just want to know, is something wrong with him saying yes, sir? He just escaped from prison, a federal prison. In fact, he mailed his motherfucking self out of the prison. Was there something wrong with him saying yes, sir, no, sir? Fuck out of here, bro. You from Houston, Texas, bro. You got the nerve to talk about a nigga in DC saying yes, sir, or no, sir? But you cool with Bun B saying, oh my God, my wife and she just ain't had to go through this. And, oh, I don't know. Oh my God. Pimp C rolling over in his grave, bro. Somebody tell Willie D that. I need to make a video of all that gangster shit, Pimp C and Bun. Well, I ain't gonna put Pimp C. Shout out to the pimp. Sweet Jones. But Bun B, bruh, I started selling rocks around the same era and time when they came out with that shit that they was talking about. Them Port Arthur boys with the connects and shit. You know what I mean? The same niggas, although Bun B didn't do this, the same nigga Pimp C in the group talking shit to Jeezy when Jeezy said, nigga, I get him for 18.5, 18.5. Yeah, I said it. Pimp C said, nigga, I'm from Port Arthur. We by the water. We by Mexico. You ain't getting shit for no 18.5 if we ain't getting it for 18.5. And now, guess what, y'all? Now that drug dealing and drug trafficking has made its way to regular people, social media, and every way through way of National Geographic and this and that, we learned that Pimp C was wrong. Bricks have been 15,000, 12,000, and 10,000. Now, if Pimp C was saying that Jeezy wasn't getting them for 18.5 at that time, which Pimp C was technically saying, he said, nigga, if they ain't 18.5 in Texas, they ain't 18.5 in Atlanta. But we done learned now, just for the exposure of even the BMF case with Big Meech, if dudes got connects, middlemen, or contacts in places like Texas, Arizona, or California, and they have a direct contact to the Mexican drug smugglers, you don't know what type of number they were getting until the feds get them and make their number public. But Willie D, again, he ain't got no business talking about nobody saying no motherfucking yes, sir, no, sir. I seen niggas say yes, sir, no, sir with that 4-5 on their lap. Now, Willie D, while you was talking that yes, sir, no, sir shit, I understood it in the context you were saying. Man for man, Willie D, you tell me since the 90s, I know Texas got a history to go back to the 1800s. Going back to the 90s, man for man, Willie D, name one nigga out of Houston, Texas that went harder than Benny Lee Lawson. You think Benny Lee Lawson didn't say yes, sir, no, sir when he walked through the motherfucking the front of the police headquarters in the District of Columbia and smashed 2 FBI agents and a homicide detective? Do you think Benny Lee Lawson cared about yes, sir, no, sir then? So I know that you brought up the yes, sir, no, sir, because you seen the dude over there on the thing. And I don't really be liking this. What I don't like. Let me give him a little play. I watched the Young Dolph murder trial. The boy straight drop was on trial. Every goddamn witness that was a street nigga that was slanging and banging was on the stand saying yes, sir, no, sir to the prosecutor. But I'd be damned if you sneak this talking about a nigga sitting on his porch smoking a cigarette. Say yes, sir, no, sir to the feds to get him the fuck out of his face and away from his door where he live at, where his kids may be, or anything like that. But You can't name a nigga like a Benny Lee Lawson or a Ralph McClain. Willie D, you ain't grow up with a nigga like that. And you know, I know some men in Houston and this and that, so I'm treading a thin line. I ain't trying to disrespect. But for Willie D to defend Bun B, how many of y'all seen Bun B on the stand crying and shit at a nigga victim impact, at a nigga sentencing? Then I seen all the people that wanted to take up for Bun B. Somebody had to go. In what country? He shot that nigga. Fuck, he needed what more punishment do the nigga need? He shot the nigga. If he wanted to, he could have killed the nigga. But he went to the victim impact zone and cried on the stand with his gangster rapper Angus steak hamburger making ass. Fat ass nigga. We don't have to fight yet. This is a sign they're losing grip. Let's play for the winner. I believe that. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yeah, New Yorkers don't show elders any respect at all. New Yorkers? Who's from New York? Why you say that? Rick, what's up? I missed all them comments, bro. Willie D been rapping since the Rayful Edmund Alpo Wayne days. True beer. Nowhere in America is the price of them things better than El Paso. I like what Rick tapped in. 17.5. Okay. Say nowhere in America is the price better than El Paso. Nowhere in the South is the black man able to move around like we do in DC. Rick got a point. He said nowhere in the South can the black man move around like we do in the District of Columbia. That ain't no disrespect to the South. Like, y'all gotta come here and see. Like, they talk bad shit about DC, but in DC, it's some shit that go on in DC that just don't go on nowhere else. That's why you think that the out of town people, the people that's not from here, I hate saying out of town, it's the out of towns. But shout out to all my people from out of town that's not from my town. But why you think that the people from outside of DC that come to DC that can function, if you can deal with the vibe of the city, why you think they stay here? Why you think Murray Berry came here from another place? Murray Berry was born somewhere in Mississippi, grew up in Memphis, came here in the 60s or something. Chuck Brown, born in North Carolina. They come here and they stay. It's just thousands of feds here now. It's all on the news and people got cameras showing it. Yeah, the feds in the hoods now. But remember, most of these feds that's here ain't coming from out of town. The National Guard did. The feds that's here are always in them offices downtown, always in them cars riding around investigating somebody. You just don't see them until they come lock somebody up. You can't even smoke a joint down south without the cops messing with you. In some places, that's true. Nowhere there's no neighborhood in the DMV that we get asked, what are you doing around here? He true about that. What are you doing around here? We are around here, all of it. Basically, the whites have no power over your movements here in DC. And this is a person that frequents the urban areas. He ain't in the pockets. Pimp C book. Pimp said Bun didn't come. Whoa. Buddy, man, I forgot that. He said in Pimp C book, Pimp C said Bun B didn't come to see him or send him money, but was yelling free Pimp C, getting money off the shirts. I don't know that to be true. I didn't read Pimp C book. I got it on the bookshelf. I never got around to it. But if Pimp C said Bun B ain't come see him or ain't send him no money, that's some funny shit. But maybe we should just look at Bun B as a motherfucking actor. It don't matter. He still was making that music that I spoke about. I heard they sending West VA National Guard now. Bruh, they sent, when the George Floyd shit popped off, they sent National Guards from everywhere. They even sent riot squads from federal prisons up here doing the George Floyd shit. And I was outside. I got video footage of it. I forgot what phone I got that on, but I got video footage from that George Floyd shit. I was out there, and I was out there when they dropped the motherfucking helicopter came down too low. I ain't getting none of the lawsuit money because that was on the street over. That was on 15th Street. I was on 14th Street. Shabazz, America, free man. DC natives are an elusive species. Laugh out loud. Nothing but love for y'all. DC natives is different. I'm telling you, bro. It's something different with the public school system, the swimming pool, the boys and club. Like our situation a little different. And we deal with all this type of bullshit that y'all seeing now. We deal with it on a record in the District of Columbia. You are speaking facts, and I'm from uptown. Shout out from uptown. I'll say this: Bun had plenty projects lined up for Pimp when he got home. They was brothers with differences. Yeah, when he got home, yeah, I think you're right about that. Maybe Bun B just ain't with that, but I could not stand the fact I seen Bun B on the stand crying. Like, even if I would have just got over the fact that it was a victim impact statement, and when you make victim impact statements, you're trying to get a nigga cooked as sentencing. If I ain't mistaken, that boy got 60 years. But what was the fucking crying for? Like, I understand when women get on the stand and cry, whether they real or they want you to get burnt up. Why was Bun B big hamburger bacon ass up there crying after he shot a nigga? Fuck out of here. DC definitely not the South, bro. DC is the South. DC is part of the South. It may not part of it. It may not be the deep South, but DC is Southern, bro. The vibe is Southern. It's below the Mason-Dixon line. The people who made it what it is came from the South. They ain't come from the North. There may be people here that migrated, but migration didn't go from the North to the South, bro. Most people don't move South. And I ain't saying that to you to talk slick. People keep on wondering why I say DC is a Southern town. It's got Southern values, bro. We sit outside and eat crabs. The people who make the town, what the town was and what the town is, came from the South. It's below the Mason-Dixon line. The Dixiecrats that was in Congress that wanted it designed a certain way from Pierre Lafonte to Benjamin Banneker. If you don't know all this, don't debate me whether DC is the South or not, bro. Please don't do that. Where you from anyway? Where my man at that said that? After I repaired that cardiovascular system at GW Hospital, I got stuck in front of the Capitol building on June 6th for 3 hours, surrounded by them folks. Chicago and DC has similar urban people. I agree. There's no zero reason to be scared of the National Guard. That might be true. Guy with a camera, we do. Yeah, I agree with that too, Rick. I was cleaning up and working. The ride squad crew on streets was facts. Oh yeah, Hassan, you know what I'm talking. I seen a ride. See, dudes that been to prison, we not gonna misinterpret that ride crew with the regular ride people out there. You know the correctional officer ride boys when you see it. They look different, big, fat, sloppy. Very rarely do they be in shape like them ATF boys. That's probably why they're in corrections. He said, I'm from Florida and DC has Southern vibes. Okay, cool. I dig that. People need to do research, educate, read up. Especially when you got opinions, because on the internet, everybody got a damn opinion. How you gonna have an opinion and you don't know what you're talking about? Like I seen Gilly, the $1 million worth of game Wallow, they was talking to a young brother out of Jacksonville. And Gilly said, bro, you from Florida. You from Florida, you from Jacksonville. Somebody where you from ain't Tampa and this and that, you know, they don't know, they don't even get shot. Bro, do you know what happened in South Florida? Do Gilly know what happens in South Florida? Dade County, Broward County, Jacksonville at the top, Tallahassee, Tampa. Tampa is the strip club king. Fuck, you talking about people don't get shit. He tripping. He tripping. I ain't gonna get on Gilly right now, though. Most people in DC came from South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. I said that earlier, but I'm about to get out of here, though. I was just kicking it for a minute. DC is the South. My family live in Richmond. I say I'm going down south. Richmond is a little too far away, though, bro. Richmond almost 2.5, almost 3 hours to get to, depending on traffic. But like if you were saying Alexandria, that'd be like going to DC. I mean, like a lot of people don't forget when you fly into DC, you think you flying there. Tell you welcome to Washington. You were in Virginia at the time. That's why the girl made that dumbass video talking about we was in Virginia at the hotel, and the lady said we're going to the White House, and I was like, we're still in Virginia. So she should have took that video down. Every state got an accent, but New Yorkers we don't have no accent like other states. Okay, that's true. What made you say that? Edward Ash, Maryland starts the South. DC is definitely the South. It sits between Maryland and Virginia. Ain't no whole lot to that. See, white people hate us and will always hate us when y'all going. I don't give a fuck if they hate us. When y'all gonna realize I don't care. I don't give a fuck who hate me. Do something. I be lit. Florida be lit. That's fact. Even in New York, all the older folks are Southern in culture. Look up the Great Migration, y'all. This message is no longer available because it was sent. I don't know who that was. Virginia starts the South. Hell nah. It depends on what you're talking about, but Virginia don't start the South. Some people say Richmond is the top of the South, but the same people that say that say DC is the top of the South. How could you debate Virginia starts anything if DC part of the land came from Virginia? See, you don't know what you're talking about. Jacksonville nickname is Jacktown. I used to kick it with some cats from there. Bruh, my girl's sister went to college there. A nigga ain't been to Jacksonville or sit up there and talk to him like Gilly from Philly. But clearly Gilly wasn't getting around before he started doing what he doing in the last 10, 20 years or something. Because for him to ever say that there's a parts of Florida that don't get busy, bro, you crazy? Let me just say this because I ain't beefing with Gilly. This ain't about that. How the fuck Gilly gonna say that shit don't happen in Florida when you're from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, bro? You need a gun license and some more shit. Them niggas in Florida at 18 and 21, they don't need a gun license. They get rifles. Do you see what they did to Julio Fulio? Fuck is you talking about? Florida? Miami is in Florida. What the fuck are you talking about, Gilly? He said he gonna call out Palm Beach where Jeffrey Epstein from. That ain't what we talking about. We talking about Jacksonville, Jacktown. We talking about motherfucking the real Dade County. Like niggas be going to Ocean Drive saying they're in Miami. You not. You in South Beach, nigga. Go to Miami-Dade County. Go to where the streets say 74th Avenue and West 60. Go to where the streets start turning to sounding like that. Out of here, bruh. That's Brick City. It used to be Brick City. Not Brick City like Newark. I'm talking about real cocaine bricks. It don't be shootings and drive-by. They got more gang banging in the state of Florida than they do in the state of Pennsylvania. By name. Boston doesn't have an accent. DC not deep South, but we definitely Southerners. New Orleans has much in common with New Orleans. We got a lot in common with New Orleans going back to slavery, bro. Renegade slaves from this area got sent to New Orleans as a punishment. Arlington used to be fully black. That's a fact. The Pentagon is built on the Black City. It was called Queen City. That's a fact. Look it up. We have to research our lineage. Blacks are indigenous to this land. That's a fact. It's a whole lot of. No, listen. I forgot the name of the general. It might have been the same dude, Otis Oliver Howard, the dude that founded Howard University, the same dude that founded Berry Farms. If I'm not mistaken, he had something to do with the Freedmen's Village in Alexandria or Arlington. And a lot of black people said that they would rather go back to slavery or being on the run than to live in anything administered by him. So a lot of those blacks started their post-slavery, post-enslavement in Northern Virginia, bro. And I don't want to hear nothing to nobody debating whether DC is Southern or not part of the South. If I just showed y'all that DC came from land from Maryland and Virginia. Now, you make an argument that Maryland is a mid-Atlantic and Virginia is mid-Atlantic. That's another metric of geography, bro. We talk about coming up and going down. DC came from land from Maryland and Virginia. DC is a southern city, bro. I don't care what you say. We ain't even got to debate that part no more. Oh, my DC OGs, y'all remember the little flip got robbed at the Denny's on Benning Road in Northeast? When did that happen? I didn't know that. He was bullshit. What the fuck did he stop on Benning Road Denny's for? Using that logic, then New York would be the South. Hold on. Using that logic, New York would be the South. DC is part of the mega metropolis from DC to Boston. How you gonna connect DC and Massachusetts with anything, bro? I just want to know how you gonna connect DC and Massachusetts with anything. I went to Florida. Definitely got busy. Zoe Pounders all over Florida, Orlando, Jacksonville, Jayville, Miami, Boca, Overtown. Yeah, and I used to visit Florida all the time. Money man, I read a book called The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabella Wilson. She wrote her thesis about America's Black migration. I need to read that book, Miss Journey. Money man, that is a fact. I definitely don't give a fuck about celebrities other than Denzel Washington and Michael Jordan. Those are the only two celebrities I would get starstruck from. If you're not from here, you can't tell us what our city is. That's crazy. Hey, Rick, I stopped talking when that nigga said DC to Boston. He been taught something different. DC to Boston? The fuck is it? The only connection DC got to Boston is the Underground Railroad, bro. That nigga needed geography class. Next up, DC is a Bama Southern city. Laugh out loud. Just playing, E. Had to use the word Bama. Put another M in it. I spell it Bamma. Some people spell it Bama. That ain't the way I was taught. Because every state below DC is a man. Laugh out loud. Quakers in Boston. We call people from New York Yankees. DC is a different world from Boston, especially the hood's much more black. Yeah, I've been to Boston. Typo, every city below DC is Bama. Man, every city outside of DC, a DC nigga gonna call the people from there Bamas if they act different. That's just a DC thing. Anyone not from DC, we used to consider Bama. That's what I just said. I ain't see your comment. Lil Flip got robbed at the Denny's by the Shrimpo. That's been in road. Yeah, that's right. By the 7-Eleven. I ain't know that. Do they got video of that or that just made the news? Lil Flip got robbed. When was this? 10, 15 years ago? The Boston Braves before the Redskins. I stand corrected. Damn, you're right. The Redskins won 2 championships in Boston. That's the Boston Braves or whatever. He right about that. That's the only connection I can think of to Boston. He's from Boston. Every Saturday player. Boston got 2 black areas. DC is a black city. Y'all terrible. Yeah, Boston do got like 2 predominantly black areas. I mean, when you think of Boston and the Fizz, you don't even think black. You think white. The tough niggas from Boston that be repping is white. Confederate states, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. All right, DC, part of the land came from Virginia, so you can imagine where it is. North Carolina, and here stay safe. Salute, North Carolina. Boston got more than 2 black areas, G. 2 predominantly black areas there, right? Since Journey, I'm gonna check that book out. That's a good book, Bunny man. I'm gonna check that joint out too. I heard about it. Go EA some. That's a dumbass statement. People are gay all over. I missed it. I don't know what that was. I ain't see it. He said, "Go eat something, bruh." You about to get sent to the top. Bullshit. Facts, them Boston bank robber boy, bruh. Those the ones I met in the Fed. Shout out to them dudes from Charlestown, and South Boston, Southie. Most of those guys I met in the Feds was white. They rumble, they push that knife, they gamble. They ain't with no some of them man. And I'm gonna give some credit to the white guys out of Boston, the ones I've been around. That rat shit, you gone. Boston black areas, Roxbury. Shout out to Roxbury and Dorchester. I've been to both of them jumps. What's up, young? Roxbury, Dorchester, Hyde Park. I forgot about that one too. Okay. Boston 23% black. Boston just has Dorchester and Roxbury. Nah, Hyde Park got black people in it too. I forgot about that one. But Roxbury for sure. Ain't that where New Edition from? Boston Celtics did play Washington Bullets back in the day. All right. That's stretching it, but I give you that one. That really happened. He performed with T.O.B., Go-Go Band, Same night. It happened like 2007, 2006. Yeah, I was still in jail. Somewhere around that time, Lord Flip was looking crazy. You have a heavy population of Cape Verde blacks in Boston. That's not the same type of blacks from DC. Yeah, they just pigmentation and color. They culture different. And they stick together. And most of the people that come from countries on the African continent don't really like Black Americans that I've encountered. Although I got a bunch of friends from Western and Northern African countries, Nigeria, Togo, Ghana. Whitey Bulger ran Boston. He might have ran some of South Boston at a minute. I mean, he had the FBI working with him. We got more black people in one neighborhood than Boston got in the whole fucking city. Upstate New York, 585 in the building. Okay, shout out to upstate New York. DC is tough though. Hey, E man, what you think the end game for this city is? To be honest with you, I can't give you a real call on what the end game to the city is because I don't know what Trump and them plans is for the end game of the administration. You got some people saying that they got Trump 2028 flyers out. Now I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know if that's a joke or what. Black people outnumbered in Boston, Maryland was what you called a bordering state. I believe Virginia was also. Every southern state was with the Confederacy at first, though they weren't Union states. Yeah, Maryland, you're right. Yeah, you can say that with your chest. The majority of black brothers and sisters in DC migrated from the South following Martin Luther King. Not following Martin Luther King, March on Washington. They just so happened to stay and build it. Nah, I go with the first part, but that March on Washington information, that come from other people. My grandmama and most of the other people from Southwest and Southeast DC, them people came here in the 50s and the 40s. But I Google what you're saying, but the Great Migration doesn't even have a connection to the assassination of MLK, bro, to my knowledge. Although I'm a different person. They Southeast DC will always be my home. I'll never forget where I came from. I'm probably that 1% that made it out of the old end of Poland. As AI engineer, Blue. Damn, as an AI engineer. Shout out to you, bro. I respect that signal. Blue High School. I know that's what you were saying. You motherfucking comments moving fast. Shit. Bostonians definitely have an accent, just like us in Louisiana. New Orleans is a whole different world. We're different than everyone. Salute. I agree. I can't believe people still feel by this dude Trump. Remember 50 Cent got into it with some DC at his concert in DC, and he said he not coming back to DC. Okay. I ain't know that though. I think what Trump doing was premeditated. Yeah, I do. 304 in the building. Tell me like the like button, share, and subscribe. Oh yeah. Appreciate the love, y'all. Eugene, soon as the feds leave, these niggas are gonna go right back to the bullshit. Shout out to Blue High School. Make sure you like, subscribe, man. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna find some other stuff to get into content wise. Thanks, bro. I graduated from Blue. Free the men.